Someone said, unfortunately, people like ZJ make it seem that gender expression is a facet of gayness. It isn't, but I can see how people might get confused. Well, as I've said before, I'm not representative of all gay people, just like you're not representative of all straight people. If you insist on extrapolating from a sample size of 1, I'm afraid that's your mistake, not mine. I don't think I've ever implied that being gay means you must dress like this, or conversely, dressing like this means you must be gay. But I can see how people might get confused, because for every person who's obviously gay, like me, there are many others who are just like everyone else, and you'd never notice they were gay. Of course you're going to notice someone who stands out, and you won't notice everyone else who blends in. And if this keeps happening, you might start thinking there's some kind of pattern here, since the totally fabulous gay people are the ones who stick in your memory. And eventually it gets to the point where you're telling me that I'm the one who's perpetuating this misconception. How? By existing? There are lots of gay people who have a more subdued sense of style. They look just like you, and there are straight people who dress this way too. But I wouldn't go so far as to say that there's absolutely no connection between sexuality and gender expression, because that's just not true. Consider childhood gender nonconformity, the tendency for a child to exhibit behavior that's more characteristic of the opposite sex. For example, a boy who plays with dolls instead of action figures, wears girls' clothes and nail polish. Basically, tomboys and sissies. And as it turns out, childhood gender nonconformity is the strongest predictor of homosexuality. These effeminate boys and masculine girls are much more likely to become gays and lesbians. Of course, this is not absolutely definitive in all cases, but there is a correlation. Furthermore, there are structural differences between the brains of straight men and gay men, as well as straight women and lesbian women. And gay men have brains that are similar to straight women, whereas lesbian women have brains that are similar to straight men. This is an actual physical difference. So it just might be that gender expression really is a facet of gayness. By the way, even if I did give people that impression, I don't think there's anything unfortunate about that. There's nothing wrong with unconventional gender expression, and if more people were willing to disregard the accepted standards of style and fashion, the world would at least be a little more interesting. Next question, if gay people are supposed to be like everyone else, just with a different sexual preference, why are gays often reassigning their own gender, i.e. wearing lipstick and women's clothing? Well, I think the last question covered a lot of ground related to gender expression and sexuality, but this question contains an incorrect assumption. No matter how much makeup you wear, that doesn't reassign your gender, and that's not even what we're aiming for. Putting on some earrings doesn't make you a woman, you're still a guy, just a guy with earrings and lipstick and everything else. If a woman wears pants, does that make her a man? Of course not. Your clothing isn't going to rewrite the structure of your brain, which is where gender is based. Now, in the case of transsexuals, their physical sex doesn't match their gender. A female transsexual actually is female. She has a female brain, but in a male body, and vice versa for male transsexuals. And the experience of essentially being trapped in the wrong body and knowing that you really are a different gender can be intensely distressing, and the accepted treatment for this is surgery to make a male body more closely resemble a female body, or vice versa. Because we don't yet know how to modify someone's brain to change the gender they are, it's easier to alter the body, and this treatment is successful in nearly all cases. But transsexualism is a distinct condition, and it's nothing like someone who just dresses in drag for the fun of it. And I think that may have been what you were getting at. Why do I dress like this? Why do other people dress like this? Because it's fun. Because it provokes amusing reactions. Because it looks interesting. Seriously, try it sometime. You might like it. Now, for the second part of your question, to me that suggests it is more than just a natural-born preference of sexual partner. In some cases, a lack of male influence at a young age might cause a boy to associate more with female things and become feminine. Do you think that might have influenced who you are? Or, as someone else put it, who was the dominant personality, your father or your mother? Were either cruel to you or to one another? Well, first of all, I never wore makeup until 3 months ago. I only got my ears pierced last year. either, and up until a few years ago, I didn't even know how to cook. I don't remember displaying any behavior that could be considered feminine when I was a child, with the possible exception of tap dancing when I was 4. I was the only boy in the group. But if you want to know about male influences, we can get into that. My mother and father divorced when I was 2. I lived with my mother, but I would stay with my dad on weekends. This continued for many years. He's always been very supportive. I couldn't ask for a better dad. We went to karate class together. He took me to the shooting range. He let me help out with home improvement projects. Honestly, I wasn't really that into it, but he made it fun, and I'm grateful for that. I think he's been an excellent male influence. Now, when I was 3, my mom remarried. A few weeks later, the new guy decided to throw a rotary saw through a wall. He loved to yell and throw things for no reason at all. He threatened to throw us through a wall on many occasions. He and my mother had a daughter. He loved her. He hated me. He loved to buy her lots of expensive things that she didn't need, and whenever she did something wrong, he punished me. We were constantly walking on eggshells, trying not to set him off. It didn't help. I spent my childhood living in absolute terror because of him. He didn't like how I was always reading or working on my computers or programming. He tried to get me to go outside and play sports, which I had no interest in, and that just pissed him off. He divorced my mother when I was 14. I don't know why she wasn't the one divorcing him. She was just as scared of him as I was. During the divorce proceedings, we found out that he had secretly accumulated over $100,000 in credit card debt. As a result, we lost our house. He still lives around here. I don't think I'll ever be able to feel truly safe until he's dead and in the ground. So as far as male influences go, that's one influence I could have done without. I'm sure he's influenced me somehow, probably not in a good way. I'd rather be the biggest flaming queen on earth than be influenced by him. Fuck him. Anyway, sorry to end things on that note, but I'll keep answering your questions in the next video. Please don't ask me about my family.